Welcome, beautiful mamas. I am your host, Shay Harrison. This podcast is a place for Springfield and local surrounding area mamas to share their stories about life, motherhood, and everything in between, completely judgment-free. I am so excited to be able to share these stories with you and give women an opportunity to be heard. So if you're ready to laugh, open your mind, and be part of a supportive sharing community, let's crack on. Hello.
Hey.
Welcome. How you feeling?
Yeah, a bit nervous, really. There's
Really?
been some big stories that even I didn't know about. And so, yeah, I guess it's intimidating, all those other stories that have been told so far.
There have been some really big stories, I do agree. However, everybody's story is important, so I'm excited to share yours.
Yeah.
So we'll start with you just introducing yourself. So your name, your age, your kids, and then your kids' ages, and then we'll crack on with your story.
Right. So my name is Katie. I am 31, and my kids are, my daughter is 3.5. My son is 9 months, and my stepson is 14.
Yeah, nice. They'll get along?
Yeah. Pretty well. I've sort of fluked it a bit, I think.
Yeah, okay.
So Carter and Ava have always got along really well.
They're the step
The older.
Yeah.
So Carter's 14,
Yeah.
Ava's 3.
Yeah.
And that's always been a great relationship.
Yeah.
And then Ava as well has been amazing with Ollie, like Oliver. And I'm really waiting for the shit to hit the fan there, but it hasn't hit yet. So
I
we're doing
have
all right.
heard easy babies make for hard teens.
Oh, yeah.
Or hard babies make for easy teens.
Well, I'm starting to see signs where I sort of go, I think you might be naughty. Like at swimming lessons, he doesn't like being told.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ollie?
If Ollie can splash on his own, he's happy. But the second we got to do the songs and he's just like not here for it. And
Yeah,
it makes
right.
Me go, I think you could be naughty. You
That's-
might be a handful.
Oh, dear. At 9 months as well. That's
Yeah.
so good.
I could be wrong. You just might be sassy, but I have never, because he's so chilled. And then
Yeah.
you see this side going, oh, maybe you're not as chilled as I think you are. Like you're just strategic.
Alrighty. Well, let's, obviously I know what you're coming on to talk about, but if you want to introduce what your story is for today.
So my story, now that I've been on maternity leave twice now, so
Yeah.
I had my 12 months off with Ava, and my story is just about the expectation of maternity leave versus the reality. And with her, as I was just sort of saying, because she was that tricky kind of baby, it was really not what I expected with her. And then now having Ollie and doing the second lot of maternity leave, like all the lessons that I've learned about myself and maternity leave and mum life, it's just, yeah, so basically that's what my story is.
Yeah. I worked with men before obviously doing my PT business, and all of them would say, oh, I'd love to be a stay-at-home
Yeah.
mum. I wish that I didn't have to go to work. I just imagine coffees and play dates and going to the park. And I was like, that's not how it is.
Even males in my close circle who
Yeah.
will say, like, I wish I had a year off. That'd
Yeah.
be great.
Yeah.
Or things like, we'll talk about we're about to go on a holiday, like whenever
Yeah.
during the year. And they'll say, aren't you already on a holiday? And things like that. Yeah, it's a bit, I mean, I'm a teacher, so I'm used to hearing you only work 9 till 3. I'm used to all the snide comments where you're like, you've got no fucking idea.
Right.
So maternity leave, same thing, but.
Is that the expectation that you had before?
No, so my expectation of maternity leave was kind of like what everyone, I guess, expects. Like I thought that I would be in my active wear all the time and we would, which is not untrue, but
There's a difference between active wear and active wear.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd be in that and going for walks at the park every day with my latte and my baby asleep in the pram, and I'd make my little mum group of mum friends and we'd be there with our babies and walking and just perfection and just loving life and just being that doting mother, and not really any of that happened.
No.
But yeah, so we got married in 2017, and we prior to that had like a really carefree kind of lifestyle. Like a friend of ours, he lived in Kangaroo Point in a unit, and so every second weekend we didn't have Carter, we'd go and do all the things and go out and just have drinks and really carefree and whatever. And then we got married in September. We went on our honeymoon straight away to Mexico and America. And so when
I've never been to Mexico.
my God, it's the
I just
best.
want to. Is it?
yes, it is as good as it seems. It
Yeah.
was like a 24-hour flight.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. And then it depends on what you're after, because it was all you could drink. And
Yes.
Brett and I both, my husband and I, we are both big drinkers. Like
Yes.
not like
I understand what you're saying. Just party.
But we
party. Yeah,
we
go
quite
party.
enjoy a bar tap. So so that's where we loved it. So
always been on my to-do list. I'm very jealous. Right now.
it was heaven. And so all of that. So it was a great holiday, and then did a bit of traveling around the US, and then we realized I was pregnant when we were in Las Vegas. So not the best place to find out. But
at what point were you into your honeymoon?
We were at the last week. So we were 3 weeks. We'd have been for 3 weeks or something. There was a week of that was in Mexico. So that was an obvious, great time to be trying for a baby.
Yeah.
And then at the end, so there was the mass shootings in Las Vegas.
Yes.
So we were there during that time. So we were at the hotel beside when all of that sort of happened, and in a sort of a lockdown and whatever. And during that lockdown period of time, I didn't feel unsafe or anything with what had happened, but all of a sudden had this massive urge to vomit, and then there was other symptoms, and then peed on the stick in Las Vegas. And actually the first time I did it, I was quite drunk and did it wrong. And then the second morning,
I just want to cover off. How do you do it wrong? Did you pee on the wrong end? Or?
Well, I was quite drunk, so you sort of are not holding it under there for enough time, the 4 seconds or whatever. And then you're supposed to, if you're early on, do it in the morning when you're HCG or whatever. So I got one line and a faint line, and then whatever, and then the next day did it sober in the morning, and it was I was pregnant, and then so came home pregnant. But so that was obviously like that carefree lifestyle. That was the first there's no more of the drinking and the partying and all of that.
From conception, you just lose yourself
100%.
Almost instantly, whether you're a drinker or whether it's food or if you have a tough pregnancy, it's just instantly.
And because your husband doesn't, like your partner or the father or whatever, that's what sort of got me a little bit during the pregnancy. So we came home and it was all exciting. And I was very lucky, barely sick. I was that annoying pregnant person that was glowing with the green smoothies and the exercise in the morning. Like I was a pain in the bum. And then we'd go to certain events because we had many people without kids, and we'd go to these things, and I'd be the designated driver, and then he would be drinking, and I'd be like, this is your kid as well that's in here. Why do you get to do that? And I don't. So it's a bit of a
And
struggle.
did he still get on it?
He had a designated driver, and then also would give me a driving lesson on the way home, and I'd be like, no, man.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it is what it is. But so that's sort of how we really started. But very easy pregnancy, very easy childbirth, like very, very lucky. I did also have this expectation in my head that when I knew she was a girl, but I thought that when she would come out, that I guess there'd be background music, and you sort of look at this child and you just have that connection. And I thought that we didn't have a name picked. We couldn't decide. And I thought I will know as a mother.
Yeah.
But no, I did not know. When they come out, they don't necessarily look like who they're going to be.
Yeah.
And so I guess even from the birth, the expectation versus reality was really not there, because it was,
I find that so interesting. I only read recently, within the last 6 months, I had the same thing. Your baby comes out and you have this overwhelming sense of love and adoration. And for me, and you might be the same, I loved my baby from the second she was born, but I didn't have that overwhelming growth of love where it changed my world. And I didn't realize that, and it makes sense when I read this, that you either have that or you have a love that grows. Yeah. But at the time when I was like, why don't I have this? What's wrong? Am I getting postnatal depression?
My bad mum already?
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
But I didn't realize that there was also the option of a growing love.
Absolutely.
Which definitely for me is what I have experienced.
Yeah.
Is that what...
100% is the same. And then and you know what it's like. You've obviously just given birth as well, and it's all a bit. And so I don't know if you experienced this as well, but having... Grant obviously had already been with someone who's had a baby before. And so this is all brand new. And so we're in hospital and things are happening, like the baby's, Ava's crying or whatever. And he knew how to do all the things except obviously breastfeeding. But he knew how to swaddle. Like and he could do it really tight, and I couldn't do that. I could, but not really. And and he knew to pick her up and to rock her. And I'd be like, okay, you've clearly got that side. And I wasn't jealous. I was like, please do all of that. I will do the feeding and you look good. And anyway, so that was how it started. But and then we sort of come home, and Grant had 4 weeks off or whatever. And I remember those first 6 weeks and everybody saying to you, this 6 weeks will be a blur, and you're waking up every night and doing the feeding and having trouble with breastfeeding, like not lots of trouble, but just your normal standard breastfeeding adjustment things. And I remember thinking to everyone, I said that, you must be joking. There is no way in hell I'll forget these 6 weeks. This is horrible. I'm in these trenches. I love this baby and it's great, but geez, I'm tired, and who could forget this crap? And then all of a sudden, yeah, it does. I guess you do forget parts of it.
Yeah.
I was a bit somewhat, because I'd been pretty fit and healthy before falling pregnant, and then somewhat fit throughout my pregnancy. And then your body has to obviously recover post-birth.
Yeah.
And I found that process really frustrating. Like, I sort of felt in my mind, I'm ready. I'm ready to take this baby around the block for a walk, or I'm ready to, but my body wasn't ready.
Did you have any complications with birth?
None.
Epidural?
I had an epidural.
Forceps?
No, I had like, that's what I mean. I had like a super easy delivery. Like
just the epidural, good to go.
I tried all the other drugs, but yeah, just the epidural.
Just try the other drugs for fun.
And then start off small and then build it up. But the epidural, so no, I didn't have any complications, nothing. Yeah. It was a very somewhat easy birth. And so
recovery is still tough.
It was still tough.
Yeah.
And because I was just sort of really, I have no patience, so I didn't have patience to get better. I was kind of like,
okay.
No, I want to start exercising. I know I like exercise, and I hate that my body's not ready, but my mind is.
Yeah.
So I found all of that really tough.
That is such a big divide.
Huge.
Did you have separation or pelvic floor weakness?
No. Oh, it was weakened, but not. It was fine. It was like a normal weakness from birth. That and because I went private, a women's health physio came to see me in hospital and would talk to me about exercises and how to start off and things like that. So the pelvic floor stuff wasn't too bad, but at the same time, even though I saw a women's physio later, I didn't feel confident enough for my own exercise journey to know where and what and how. So like I'd be YouTubing different videos about like post-birth videos and whatever, the exercise to do and so forth. But I didn't really have a set pathway of where to go with exercise and so forth. And so that was basically, the 6 weeks. I found my body was the toughest in that time to heal. And then I had this expectation as well, because you hear of everyone's stories as people share, like, oh, my baby slept through from 6 weeks. And when you hear those stories, I sort of thought, oh, so it's a possibility that babies from 6 weeks can sleep through or whatever.
You're like, my kid. That's me.
What do I need to do?
We're doing this.
What's the secret to that? And so when things like that didn't happen, I assumed it was my fault. I'd be like, what am I not doing that person's doing? And I took a lot of it on as me being unsuccessful. And because I'd been a teacher for 6 or 7 years or something before having a baby, you're in a job and you're used to having what success looks like in your job, whether you have a good day or bad day. But when you're a mum and you don't have a successful day or a successful moment, it's really hard to see the big picture. You just see it as, I'm failing and this is really hard and I don't know how to make this better and things like that. So I had a lot of pressure on myself because I had the visual of what it was going to be. But
so was it just sleep or?
So it just started for sleep. So 6 weeks wasn't too bad, but then that 4 months on, and I'm not talking about the sleep regression. She actually didn't go through that. So the sleep was somewhat okay, but I was always looking for it to be better. I couldn't accept for what was. I was looking, like she'd wake up 2 or 3 times a night. So I was just waiting. Why can't we wake up just once, not twice, not 3 times? I couldn't just accept where we were because I accepted that it was my fault that we couldn't. I didn't wrap you enough. I didn't have the heater right. You know what I mean? I just took it all on as me, not her as a baby. I took it on as, how do I make you into that baby that you could be?
That's so interesting.
Yeah, which is how it sort of goes for the next year.
Yeah, right. I don't think I've heard anyone verbalize it that eloquently about like mum guilt comes in all different forms.
Absolutely.
But applying she's not sleeping, but it's just not about accepting it.
Yeah.
It's about what can I do to make this better, where that's so interesting.
Yeah, and the things I know about this experience now is only because I've had the second baby and I've been here through the whole, and I've learned so much about myself from why I was so unhappy. I didn't have postnatal depression or any of those symptoms or anything, but because I had this enormous pressure on myself. And in that time of 4 months to say 6 months or whatever, all things happened. So she hated the car. So,
I've heard that. I remember you telling me this.
Yep.
So just to interrupt, would you consider yourself a high achiever? Or a bit of a perfectionist? Do you like
Not a perfectionist, but I like my routine and I like my parameters as in like almost like key performance indicators. So
Yeah, okay.
like, do you know what I mean? I can tell I'm doing a good job. Like, so being in my classroom, I can tell I'm doing a good job because I can see the distance the kids have travelled, or I can see the growth in that kid socially and all the things I put in place to help them. So I like...
Yeah. You're always striving for the next level.
Yeah.
Even in yourself, not just as a mum, but professionally as a wife as well.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, okay.
I always think he can do better. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's
joking.
fair
But
though.
no, so that's how I always saw it. And so there's been so many things as well. So she hated the car and said that was horrendous. So and she hated
I've heard
the pram.
that lots.
The pram as well. And I didn't understand. I'd be like aren't babies, this should be a duck to water. They all go in the pram. So she would scream her lungs out.
Yeah.
She wouldn't even just whin, she'd scream. So
And they get so worked up, don't they? Yeah. And then you're trying to drive and they're screeching and you're like, shut up.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then you get somewhere and then you tell someone the story and you've had almost the breakdown in the car too or whatever. And then someone's like, oh, that poor baby. And you're like, that poor baby? Yeah, the baby's fine now.
It's the baby's fault.
I'm traumatized.
Yes.
Anyway, so moving on. So I'd go to mother's group because that was the thing where I was like...
You'd drive to mother's group and she would lose it. Yeah.
Because I'd be like, mother's group is what you do on maternity leave.
Yeah.
That's the visual. You make mum friends and that's life.
Yeah.
That's my new life.
Yeah.
So I'd get out of the car. She'd be horrible, but she'd calm down. And then in the group, I was just waiting to make these mum friends. And then Ava is not much of a joiner in activities. And she hated it. So she would also get there and because it'd be over, say, 6 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it is. And it just didn't happen. I tried so hard to think that this is what I need to do. I need to be in mother's group and whatever. And it just
Find your support.
just didn't work.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of support as well. So that's the other thing of this is that I'm so lucky to have, I've got 2 retired parents that don't live far away. Grant's got retired parents that don't live far away. You know, there's friends and family and things like that. Not my closest friends didn't have kids, but friends do have kids and whatever. But yeah, so I do have support. So mother's group and things, looking for support. I was looking for what I thought it was going to be, friends. And it didn't really happen. Like I made one friend and that was wonderful and our kids were the same age and it was all beautiful. But it just didn't flow the way I thought it would. Not the coffee dates and the hanging out and then again I just sort of thought, no, well, I've missed that opportunity to have that, and it's almost like it failed, you know, it just didn't. And so that was one thing as well that I was like, well, this is, you know, but in hindsight, looking back on it, it wasn't a good scenario. Like the baby, she was crying on the way there, crying there. And
You're already stressed.
And because all the other babies were quiet, I felt like I was the mum. People were like, you haven't got it together. But it's obviously not what happens, but that's how I felt. Like, come on, Ava, can you please behave so that I look okay?
You're 4 weeks.
We're okay.
Yeah.
You know, that you're doing fine, we're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I found that really tough. But then, and so I'd be crying the whole way home from mother's group and stuff about what had just happened. And then everyone's trying to give you advice like, oh, have you tried this mirror in the car? And you'd be like, mate, I've tried every mirror, but I appreciate it. But no.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so all of that happened in that time. And
So sorry, that was from 6 weeks?
From
4 months?
Yeah, about 4 months to probably 6 months or so. It was just or 8 months or whatever. Probably till about 6 months it really peaked. And then I wasn't getting out and exercising because she wasn't in the pram and things like that.
Yeah.
And that was obviously important to me, but it just wasn't happening. It helped putting her in a carrier, but the carrier just got really heavy after a while. So it wasn't... But yeah, I found a groove with where we were at, but there was little things like she'd have this great sleep every morning, but then the afternoon sleep, I couldn't fix it. I couldn't work out the pieces of the puzzle in the afternoon why it wouldn't happen. I just felt like I was failing. And then I'd read these things online about take them out during witching hour, get them outside. So I'd take her for a walk. She obviously hated the pram. Which is stupid. But I remember calling Grant one afternoon. I walked around the estate and I felt like every house could hear her. But she wasn't even that bad. But at the time, it felt that bad. And so I'd walk around and then I called Grant on the side of the road, like crying, as if he could fix the problem. Like, she's doing this and I can't do this anymore. And Grant's like, I'm sorry, but I can't. You'll be okay. Just go home. And and then as well on top of with Grant, so I had these unrealistic expectations of him too. Like I kind of, because we both love working and so forth, I thought that when he comes home, he should roll the red carpet out for me. Like like, good on you for being home today, and you know you've had a tough day with the baby and you're doing amazing things and so forth. And I sort of expected that, you know, if you finish work at 4:00, you'll be home at 4:01 because, you know, we're home and we're waiting for you.
Yeah.
And anyway, so they were there. I had these really high expectations of Grant, and obviously then that's not what happened. And we had so much trouble relating to each other at times because I would love nothing more than to go to work and have him stay home. And when Ava would be really upset with different things in the day, like the car or the pram or the scenarios, I'd be like, she just wants you home, because him and her had such a beautiful bond from the start. And I was like, she just wants you. She's crying all day for you and all of that. And he saw it as, I would love nothing more than to stay home all day. I don't want to be at work. I want to be home. And so we never could relate to each other because at the time I didn't know what it was like to be a working parent. He didn't know what it was like to be a stay-at-home parent. So we butted heads a lot. Yeah. And then when it all sort of came to a head about those unrealistic expectations I had of Grant, it really made me realise that that was not how it was, and to see it for how it is, and which kind of sort of flows in a bit to around 8 months, things sort of started to turn a corner. So I wasn't depressed or anything like that. Like, there was good days and found my balance a bit. But I think because I didn't really understand who I was as a mum, like I wasn't the mother's group mum. I wasn't the
active wear mum.
No, I was not the walking around drinking lattes mum. And I also wasn't the some people talk about their kids so lovingly as well, like, you know, she's doing this, and sometimes I'd want to say, my kid's being an asshole today, like, just join the babies group and stop crying. Yeah. And, you know, if you say that to someone who doesn't speak like that, so you got to find your right tribe. So around 8 months, it all kind of, she settled a bit and whatever. I think we tried a different pram and whatever, but the big turning point was a few things. So Grant and I, it came to a head, just we'd had a massive argument, and then it was in that argument I must have said a few things, and then I've realised, oh, hang on, this is me. Like, if I go out somewhere, I'm not going to be home the second it's over. Like, if I go see a movie with friends or something, I'm not going to be home straight when the movie's finished. I'm obviously going to hang around and chat to my friends and whatever. So I realised that's an unfair expectation to have on you as well, and you don't need to roll the red carpet out for me, because I'm obviously, this is our decision, our family, and this is how we're working at the moment. And then so at 8 months as well is when I started boot camp. So that was also the next thing. So around 8 months, I realised that whenever I had, say, time away from Ava, I was with Grant and we'd be doing something together, or I'd be going to meet a friend or whatever. I didn't really have that time on my own to just be on my own and to have a break from that massive mental load of nap time and feeding time and all of that. And I'd stopped.
And running a house.
Yeah, 100%.
It's, as a stay-at-home mum, you're not just looking after a baby. You're paying bills. You're ordering the food. You're cleaning the house. You're even if you don't cook dinner, you might not do dinner, bath and bed. You're still thinking about what dinner's going to be. Exactly. You're thinking about Christmas presents, birthday presents, all the things that need to be done. It's not just let's breastfeed the baby and make sure the baby doesn't die. And
I didn't love breastfeeding. Breastfeeding was fine and it was okay, but, you know, people really love it. Yeah, I just found it take it or leave it. Yeah. And then so I hated the idea that I felt chained to her at times, as in I'm your food source. Like, yes, I can pump it. And then so around that 8 months, I stopped breastfeeding as well. Which also just felt so nice to not be worried about like breastfeeding and being responsible and so forth. But and then starting boot camp. So the girl that I met through Mother's Group, she suggested that we try boot camp, and I'd always been into physical exercise. I was like, yep, cool. And I still remember my first session and all of that. And you were like, sort of, it's at your own pace, just sort of roll with it and anything like that. And then, physically my body was okay. I wasn't sure pelvic floor wise. Like, I'm sure that I was fine, but I'd never tested it that far. Yeah. And so, and you obviously being, having that extra knowledge of pelvic floor and all that sort of stuff, I felt more comfortable heading into training going, okay, this is not going to be too damaging. Yeah. And it was amazing. So just that having that time where your mind turns off and just straight into the exercises. And then the other great thing that happened with that too, because it's obviously a local boot camp, is you obviously know someone who knows someone and whatever. And then that first session, my neighbour was there as well. And that's right. Yeah, and so her and I had always sort of chatted neighbourly, not excessively or anything. And then what actually would happen then is I go to the boot camp, we do the session, and then then her and I would be chatting in the car park for like an hour afterwards.
Yeah.
And she understood all the stuff that I was feeling at the time and really related because she was also a working mum who loves working. So we would have these chats, and my husband had a theory because we share a driveway. So one of us would drive in and the other one drives in. And he'd be like, do you guys just go to the pub? Like, I know you're not really going to boot camp. And yeah, so boot camp was the start of that really big break of, you know, and it also puts things in perspective for you. Like that day you stressed about them not crawling or rolling over or all of the things. You sort of, it made me go, it's not as a big deal. In the moment it was catastrophe, and now I can see it as it was just a bad day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so boot camp really helped to start that off. And then exercising put me in a better mind frame of, if I can do that session. It was about summer. It might have been February, so the sun was up early. So if Ava would wake at 5, I'd be like, I'll take Ava for a walk around the estate. And then so being that bit more active also felt really good.
Yeah.
And then what else happened with around that time? So all the expectations of Grant sort of, I've realised as well now, being in a job where I go into a big school and I see so many teachers and students and parents and cleaners and teacher aides and so forth, I would be, you know, communicating with a massive amount of people per day, and you get a lot of, hey, your hair looks nice today, or hey, your kids are doing this and this. And so... And then all of that to be then just on Grant. Because you need to feel like the voice of 50 people I normally talk to as well. So and then since learning a lot about myself, like I've learned that about love languages is something I've never been really aware of before. And my love language is words of affirmation. And that's not Grant's. So that for him is at the bottom, and for me it's at the top. So if he'd come home and say innocently, like, what'd you get up to today? I would take that as, what didn't you do today?
Do you just want to explain what love language is really quickly? Because some people like you don't know. I only learned about it a couple of years ago, but I do believe it plays such a pivotal part in functioning relationships.
Even friendships.
So, absolutely. Any form of friendship. So do you want to just explain?
I feel like, is there 8 or 6?
7? There's 7 languages.
Somewhere in the middle.
8 or 6, there's 7.
Look, there's more than one.
Yes, you're not wrong.
You can go online if you just Google it and do a test. Like it's a heap of questions about what you prefer. And I think there's physical touch, there's like gift giving and so forth, and it works out what you are, and it sort of explains. So my love language is obviously words of affirmation. So if Grant walked in and said, wow, the house looks clean, I would take that as, yes,
I've had a successful day.
I'm successful. You've noticed it. Or Ava's doing really well. You're a great mum is all I would sort of need, where other people love gifts and so forth. But I didn't know that about myself in that moment. And so I've only learned this now, really. So looking back, having that communication with Grant to say, hey, I need words of affirmation. It means a lot to me if you just text me in the day and say, hey, I'm thinking of you. I mean, you probably don't appreciate when I text you what I just ordered at Zaraffa's for no reason. But so that's where we're at. And so learning that about myself, I wish I knew that to start with, because again, that would have just made it so much clearer for us to communicate when he would get home and things like that. So that's where we sort of worked out. And then doing boot camp and things like that, I saw people and having that time away, because there are sessions where you can obviously take your baby to, which is perfect for those people who don't have help or support or don't want to spend that time. But for me, I was like, oh my God, there's a session I can go to on my own. That's perfect. And then
when you started, sorry, you had the fight with Grant.
Yeah.
Is that what triggered you to identify that you needed alone time?
Not
or was
really.
it just kind of flowed?
Happened. It didn't. I didn't realize it until I had it. So that was when it triggered my. It wasn't Grant's fault. It was my fault, so to speak.
But then separately
going to boot camp, and then when the session is finished, and you sort of realise, oh my God, I didn't think about nap time for an hour. That was great. And so it was that time, and then.
When you started boot camps, did you and I'm just asking out of curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you experience any guilt about leaving, or was it just good for you?
It was good.
Yeah, okay, that's great. That's really good.
Yeah, no, I didn't have the guilt. I knew that it would be good in a good time and so forth, and it was only an hour, and it's around bedtime anyway. So, and Grant's always been a really hands-on dad, and so I always knew that time would be fine for them, and I kind of knew Grant would probably enjoy it that bit more, me not being there.
Yeah.
Like he could have his time with her, and I'm a bit like strict on the routine, and so he could probably play, games with her when I'd be like, no, we're not, we're going to bed. And he'd be, so they really enjoyed their time.
Yeah, that's really good.
But so then all of that, and then it was before long, 12 months, and then headed back to work 4 days a week. And it was around that time I started boot camp. and then did it 5 days a week or whatever, did more sessions and met other people. The more I went, the more people I got to know, and all of the women were phenomenal. So that feeling of not having like a mum tribe at the time, like the mothers group vibe, I've later learned, well, it was better to create my own tribe of people I could talk to and relate to. I didn't necessarily need to do the token mum group thing. It just became much nicer. And then, and even meeting other friends through boot camp who didn't have kids and things like that. That was a lot of fun too. But so then 12 months, went back to work, and the feeling of going back to work, and I'm sure you have your own experience about this being a trainer, walking into work. And I also had a lot of pressure on myself about my body and wanting it to go back to the way it was. Not so much the size that it was a big thing, because I'd look at all these clothes, and I didn't buy clothes at the time to fit my new size. And I was like, no, I'll just lose the weight. I'm breastfeeding. That didn't happen. That didn't help. And so that was hard, because I felt terrible in my clothes and just refused to be a different size, which was dumb, but it happened. And then walking in on day one, feeling like everybody was looking at me going, oh my God, you didn't lose your baby weight, which is incredibly stupid. But at the time, that's how it felt. Because you're walking in, you're brand new, and it's like being new again, even though you know everyone. And so I felt really anxious about how everyone was feeling about me coming back. And I'd never felt anxious about leaving Ava, because we had grandparents caring for her and daycare, and I knew daycare would be great for her. But I felt really like, this is crap. Like, I haven't worked hard enough on my maternity leave to lose this weight, and so forth. And so, and like, I'm talking like a 1 or 2 sizes. I'm not talking 5 or 6. This is all in my head about how I felt. And then I'd be talking to people, and they're like, I felt like it was only me having that experience, that, you guys all look amazing after your kids. No way would you understand how I'm feeling about this. And then as conversations happened about other things, I slowly realized people who I thought have got it all together and are still how they looked before a baby, they would say, oh no, I've got this bag of clothes that it still does not fit me post kids, and we've all got it. Or someone would say, I threw those clothes away ages ago, they made me feel terrible, and I don't need to fit those clothes anymore. So a lot of these scenarios in my head that made me feel horrible on maternity leave, when you hear these stories, you go, oh, it's not just me, and it doesn't matter. In this moment it did. But that all faded away after a few weeks, and then going to boot camp 5 days a week, everything kind of evened out. It was really good. But and then all those feelings calmed down about feeling like that, and attaching sort of self-worth to a dress size and so forth was a bit stupid.
It happens to everyone. I think women are so... It was on Big Bang last night, actually. Women from a young age are supported in how they look and how they dress and what they wear and how they act, opposed to their academics. So I think lots of women associate post-mum, pre-mum, whatever, their worth with their size.
Absolutely. And I could never take it as in, oh, my body has done this amazing thing and grown this amazing healthy human. I would just take it as, of course I did that, like whatever, but let's be better. So
it's like that, isn't it?
It is. It was on to the next thing, like when they're little and you're on to the next thing. But but when she became 1, she calmed down in the car and the pram and all that settled. Like literally the week before I went back to work, she was happy to be in the pram. And we went to Rebel Parkland every day. Activewear, did the walk around Rebel.
With your latte?
1 week. Because the cafe was open literally 1 week. So we got there in the end. But anyway.
Only took 12 months. Oh, that's so
like
funny.
3 different prams and... But so then went back to work, really loved being back at work, really loved all the balance and boot camp, like as in that... the different breaks that I'd have, a break from mum life, a break from this, and that really great time with Ava, and I had a day off with her, and then I went full time, but because I'm a teacher, I have the holidays with her and stuff, which is great. But so then we started thinking about baby number 2. Like I wasn't ready for baby number 2 for a while. I was a bit scarred with the pram and the car scenario, like not going down.
Those 2 things have really...
It really was.
Yeah.
Because like people are saying things to you like, oh, don't they just sleep on the way home? You're like, I know what you're talking about. But I did discover podcasts in that time, and I just pop a podcast on and just tune out the screaming.
Yeah.
But it was always awkward if someone was in the car and they'd be trying to calm her down. I'm like, stop it, because now I have to listen to you and her. But I
always remember she was crying and turn my volume down on my radio in my head, like, it's so loud in here, turn the volume down, but obviously it's not going to turn her down.
Yeah.
And she's wailing in the background. Yeah. Like, at the time I was like, turn down, shut up. Yeah. But it didn't work. She kept crying. So, yeah,
it's a hard one.
It is.
It's an intense moment. But yeah, so we fell pregnant with Ollie.
How old was Ava at this point?
She was like 2 and a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Was she 2? Maybe she wasn't 2. I fell pregnant just as COVID started, and she must have turned, she would have turned 2. She was turning 2, so she was 1 and a bit, 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's
2-ish.
Look, it's all a blur. Someone once asked me Ollie's name and I forgot. So,
I've forgotten Callie's too. Yeah. You're not alone with us, sister. You are not alone.
You swear you'd never do it, but
you do.
But yeah, so she was around that 2-ish age. Yeah. And it was, the second pregnancy was a lot harder. I was nowhere near as cocky as the first one. I was sick. I couldn't exercise, could barely get out of bed. It was horrible. But still it was all good. And we didn't find out what gender we were having. And so people kept asking me, which is funny, they kept saying, what gender? Like, do you want a boy because you've got a girl? And I'd just say, as long as it sits in the pram in the car. I don't care. It can be non-binary for all I care. I don't care. Just a bit more chilled than Ava was. She just gave me a run for my money. But and again, it was all easy birth. But the physio that came to see me after having Ollie, there was no complications, very easy, another epidural. The physio that came to see me was talking to me about resting, and she was saying the best thing you can do post-birth is just to lie flat for 15 minutes every hour for the body to sort of all go back together. And it was really good advice. I think I really related to that because I already had a toddler. And so that helped my recovery, I think, to be a little bit quicker, or for me to feel better, rest to feel better. And so I wasn't as frustrated with my body the second time. I think I really understood that there's no rush to get back to the exercise. And knowing my experience with Ava, after the 6 weeks or however long it took that early recovery, I knew what I would need. The days that I was home with both kids, because Ava went to kindy still for a couple of days a week, but the days I had both kids home, I worked out if I'll have my activewear on for as soon as Grant walks in, and then I'll quickly go for a 20-minute walk or whatever, and then I've had that break, and then I can go into the night and feel better, which was amazing because, I'm obviously not, as Grant walks in, like wanting to ready for a, hey, this was my day and whatever. It just gave me that break, and he understood, and he was really good about it. And so I'd go out, do my walk, come back, or so forth, and which was good. So it was a lot easier the second doing all of that exercise.
How old was Ollie when you started doing that?
I think Ollie would have been about, or maybe 8 weeks when I started walking. Okay. But then I started doing like a bit of Pilates, like mums and bups Pilates, which was good, but also he's always been the best baby, like chilled, and he's had to have a bottle from day one because he lost too much weight after leaving hospital. And so that also helped me with how I didn't enjoy breastfeeding because he always had to have a bottle at certain times. So that was perfect.
Did you breastfeed at all with him?
Yeah. So I breastfed until he was...
Just co-fed? Is that what
it's called? Mixed feeding.
Mixed feeding, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so mixed feeding. And so we did mixed feeding for a while, and it was really good. I really enjoyed that time. And so the exercise, having that break really helped with that. I think the second one, you kind of realize that it's, this too will pass. Like, I didn't feel every moment was bad or catastrophe, or I didn't feel every moment this time was my fault. It was just, that's just him, and that's her, and I don't have time to stress about this or that and whatever. And I think the second time, as far as sleep consultants and things like that go, I had found someone on Instagram randomly, and this big sleep consultant,
Who is it?
Sleep by Steph.
Sleep by Steph. Okay, I'll add that in the bio.
Yeah, she does all these Instagram lives and stuff, and she's got some paid content, but I could really relate to this basics she talks about with sleep. Like, she talks about keeping them really warm, and she speaks about putting them down not at a certain time. With Ava, I was a routine, like, okay, it's 8 a.m, it's bedtime. Yeah. But with Ollie, it was more about when you see he looks tired, then to put him down. Yeah. And then when I followed things like that, made the biggest difference, and he was a much better sleeper, which could be for a number of reasons, but the sleep guide that I identified with really made it massive. So someone else could see her profile and think, no way, but it was simple. And then the next part, and then Ava had some bad sleep problems as well. Like, so she would wake up more than Ollie. She would, because she dropped her nap, she was 3. And she'd wake up with these night terrors. So I'd have a baby who slept through really early and a toddler who didn't. I was like, this is bull. But she, through the sleep consultant, I could see the problems with her. She needed to go to bed early. So when I put her to bed early, the night terrors and things stopped.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. I just so happened to come across someone at the right time who had all of the answers that I needed at the time. And so that was basically, so learning a lot more about sleep.
Just how much earlier were you putting her to bed?
I put her to bed at like 7 or 7:30.
And what time?
6 p.m. But she's an early riser. So
that's an hour and a half. It's a big difference.
Yeah, and just that wind down time I always had a consistent routine, but when Ollie came along, the routine was just that bit longer. Dinner could be a bit longer and so forth. But when I read, she recommends 6 p.m. on the dot, and I was like, no way, kids don't, are you joking? Like, no way. And then it was like magic. And then, so it was really good. And because I felt ripped off. I was like, hold on a sec. I could be getting, 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep, but I'm not because I'm getting up for you.
Yeah.
And then, so I just, a lot of her program I just really identified with and really felt heard. I think maybe that's what I was missing on my first maternity leave as well, which could be because, I didn't know I needed that help. And then seeing that,
asking for help's hard.
Yeah, when you don't
or
really
identifying,
need it.
identifying that you need help is often a real challenge because we believe we're expected to know everything and do everything.
Exactly. And so that is how so coming around the second time, I knew that hearing about love languages and having that conversation with Grant and having that I've been a working parent as well, so understanding what he feels like when he comes home and knowing all of that, knowing sometimes to understand he's coming from the place that he would love nothing more than to be home. And so understanding that. But this time with maternity leave, so I obviously didn't do anything. I didn't do the mothers group. I didn't do the making rainbows. I didn't do anything like that because that's not me at the end of the day. I can see those people who do all of those activities and they are those people that love it and thrive off that environment, and it's just not me. Like, I'm not someone who wouldn't do that without a baby, go to say, I don't know, some sort of group class, not exercise, but something different. And so learning, hey, I don't have to follow that pathway of what I think I should be doing. And it's been great. So and then with the kids as well, because Ollie will go on the pram, the days I've got them, it's getting out, going for a walk, it's getting all of that sort of stuff done and finding our balance. And so last time I was like itching to get back to work, and this time I'm like, oh, I could take longer. Like I'm not going to, but I love it this time. So it's been, there's no more maternity leave coming, but this time I've really enjoyed it just to chill out and let them be. Yeah. It's not my fault. It's not my fault when he only sleeps for 20 minutes, not the hour. Or it's not my fault if he's waking up at 4 a.m. or something. It's not something that I need to solve. It is just what it is, and just roll with it. But it's basically my story, I'm pretty sure.
So much for sharing that. Well, we're going to finish with a this or that. Okay. So as you've heard with the other podcasts, I'll give you 2 things and you have to tell me which you would prefer. Yeah. All right. So tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Get-ups or burpees?
Burpees. 100% burpees.
Sandwiches or wraps?
Wraps.
Wraps?
Burgers.
Wraps?
Bit wraps, yeah.
Okay. Well, burgers wasn't on the option, right. But this or that obviously is not working. Blind or deaf?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Blind.
Yeah, I'd rather be deaf.
Yeah, I'd rather be deaf. That's what I mean. No, wait. I'd rather be blind. I'd rather hear my kids' voices is what I'm saying.
Oh, really?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a hard one.
It is a hard one. Rather lose your arms or your legs?
Oh.
Quick. Legs. And which one's your favourite?
Sorry.
Child. Which one's your favourite child?
Different moments at different days. There are times when you're like, you're my favourite child in this moment and you're my favourite. I said to my belly when I was pregnant all the time and Ava was in the terrible 2s, you're my favourite today. So unborn child. And then they kick me at night. I'm like, you're not my favourite.
Yeah, get out.
But
evicted.
Favourites at different times.
Yeah, that's fair. Alrighty, well, we're all done. So thanks again. I'm really excited to be able to share that. You've had such insight with your maternity leave, but the postpartum process emotionally. So I think there are going to be lots of women who are going to be able to relate to your story, even small parts or even the whole thing.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's really exciting.
I thought I'd swear more, but I didn't.
No, you didn't.
Wow.
I'm definitely the one that swears the most out of all of them. Alrighty. Yeah.